What is going on, everyone? Rick Ucchino here again on the SK Wrestling YouTube channel, joining you to talk about the latest edition of Monday Night Raw. Retribution loses again, so does Shayna Baszler, while the Hurt Business gets two big victories, and the Fiend makes his most unique appearance yet. Join me as I talk about what WWE got right this week and what they continue to do that just makes me scratch my head. First things first, WWE has to do a better job of protecting Shayna Baszler. Remember when she made her main roster debut and decimated the entire locker room within a few weeks en route to her WrestleMania 36 matchup with Becky Lynch? Yeah, that sure feels like a long time ago now. Leading up into their tag team title defense at TLC, Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax lost back-to-back matches, with Shayna eating the pin both times. Now this week, Shayna loses again to Asuka in a one-on-one contest after coming down with DBFS, otherwise known as Dumb Babyface Syndrome. Lana and Nia Jax, they were having their own scuffle on the outside of the ring, which caused Shayna to lose track of Asuka for what seemed like an eternity before Nia ended up being thrown into the announcer's table and Asuka rolled up Shayna for the 1-2-3, her third loss in a row. I get that WWE is trying really hard to get us to bite on the possibility of there being a title change at TLC, but Shayna being pinned 3 weeks straight just isn't a good look. And this week was the worst one yet because she looked like a complete idiot in the process, losing track of her opponent for that long. I hate these kind of finishes, especially when they take that long to develop. Moving on, I just don't know what is happening with Retribution anymore. The events of last week set up mixed tag action this week as Ricochet and Dana Brooke took on Slapjack and Reckoning. And for the second week in a row, Reckoning, aka Mia Yim, would be distracted by her own leader, Mustafa Ali, allowing Dana Brooke to hit a sit-down slam and get the pinfall. Then afterwards, Ali would chastise Reckoning in the middle of the ring, like he had nothing to do with her getting beat.
Nice.
Mia Yim losing her first two matches on Raw just doesn't sit well with me, even if she was being protected slightly with the distraction finishes. Retribution, as hard as they try, they just don't seem to have the backing of WWE Creative. Yes, they're on TV every week. That's great. They have their spot on the show, but with all that talent, it just feels like a major botch to book them the way that they have been booked up to this point. After the match on Monday, T-Bar tweeted out that something needs to change, and I think we can all agree on that point. Meanwhile, this was a really good night for Dana Brooke. Let's not take anything away there. She cut a really solid promo, got her second win in a row. It's great to see someone who works so hard have a little bit of success. But is that the sole purpose of Retribution? To put others over? If so, yikes. Now I look at Retribution and think, with the right adjustments, they could be a really dominant group, just like the last faction that they put over, the Hurt Business. And they got two big wins Monday over two former WWE champions. Bobby Lashley defeating Jeff Hardy while Riddle looked on. And you know what? Allow me just real quick to use a tired trading analogy here. If I was buying stock in WWE superstars, Cedric Alexander is someone I would be investing heavily in. The man can flat out go in the ring. We've known that since the Cruiserweight Classic. But ever since he aligned himself with MVP and company, he has really come into his own. He's got a certain confidence and swagger about him, and on screen, he's really starting to buy into his own hype. If WWE plays its cards right here, Cedric Alexander could emerge as the alpha male in the Hurt Business. Now, last week, they did kind of tease a little bit of dissension, maybe, that he's possibly thinking he doesn't need the Hurt Business. Maybe he could possibly be breaking away when he ran off to celebrate his victory over Xavier Woods. I'm not really sure what that was going on there, but I'm hoping that Cedric Alexander stays right where he is, because he is really flourishing in the Hurt Business. The question is, will he get the big win when it matters most, when championship gold is on the line? I think WWE would be making a major mistake if they don't pull the trigger when that happens. Another mistake WWE could make is actually having Sheamus turn on Drew McIntyre. They are not being subtle at all with Sheamus right now. Everyone and their brother is pointing to him turning on Drew McIntyre at some point to go after the WWE Championship, including Keith Lee, who for the second week in a row approached Sheamus backstage. It is so obvious that they are setting this up that, again, it makes me think they're going to go in another direction. There's some other swerve that has to be on the horizon here, and I'm good with it. I'm all for it, because this is the most fun and interesting Sheamus has been since he was on the bar. They're just a different combination. Yes, Sheamus accidentally hit McIntyre with a bro kick, costing them their 3-on-2 handicap match against AJ Styles, The Miz, and John Morrison. And yeah, it led to a backstage brawl between the two, but that's the dynamic that I love. These two big guys are just going to settle their differences by slugging it out and then heading to the bar to smooth things over with a couple of pints. Because, as a wise man once said, beer, the cause and solution to all of life's problems. So anyway, yes, Drew McIntyre and Sheamus work together. That's their friendship. It's a unique dynamic I don't think we've seen on WWE programming in a long time. And I'm also here for blurring the lines a little bit. Drew McIntyre, a babyface, helps Sheamus, a heel, slam a WWE official through a table when they tried to break up their fight. That is not something you would typically see here. Now, Adam Pearce did say there would be consequences for their actions. I really can't wait to see what he tries to do to those two next week. And lastly, I have said this before, I will say it again, Bray Wyatt is a damn genius. He might be the best talker on the Red brand right now, and he may even be the most entertaining person in the entire company. He produced another classic Firefly Funhouse episode Monday, perfectly blending his comedic chops with that sinister art of storytelling that he has. Everything he does has a purpose. Everything he shows you has meaning. Well, except for whatever that walrus thing was. That might have been a one-off. I'm not really sure, other than to poke fun at Paul Heyman, what that was all about. But I digress. Monday's game show was no different than everything else outside of the walrus, as he explained more of the backstory there between he and Randy Orton for the audience that may not be up to date. And then later on, he would take on Randy Orton in the main event. Now, Orton appeared to have this matchup won when he hit the RKO, but then the lights went out. And when they came back on, Orton wasn't covering Bray Wyatt. He was covering the Fiend, who had emerged out of nowhere, slapped on the mandible claw, and took Randy Orton down as the show closed out. A very unique ending that can only be done without a live audience present. And the more WWE can take advantage of those circumstances, the better. You have a very supernatural character here. Let's see more of that dark magic as the build to TLC continues.